I'm Marcus, 35, and 6 weeks ago I did the biggest thing I've ever done. I gifted my parents a $780,000 lakefront villa for their 40th anniversary. It had cathedral ceilings, a wraparound porch, and a boathouse my dad could finally fix up without worrying about city noise or my mom's arthritis acting up on stairs. I thought it would be the proudest moment of my life. Then I showed up unannounced last Sunday, rang the bell, and watched my mother squint through the glass like I was a stranger. When she opened the door, she said, "Can I help you?" I should back up. I'm the oldest son of Harold and Marie Langston. They lived, in a tired 2-bedroom split-level in the suburbs where the air always smelled like someone else's lawn mower and the walls were paper-thin. For years I promised myself I'd give them a better life. I did everything by the book: engineering degree, built a tech firm from scratch, sold it at 32 for just under $9 million, and moved into a quiet rhythm of consulting, spreadsheets, and slow weekends. I don't flaunt money. I fix things. My younger brother Tyler? Different script. Still figuring it out, according to Mom. Which is code for, in and out of jobs, always borrowing a little to get by, charm without the follow-through. They never judged him. I used to envy that, how freely they forgave him, how rarely they asked for receipts. So when their 40th anniversary was coming up, I thought, this is it. This is the gesture. No more flowers or group dinners or matching robes. I toured properties for weeks until I found the one, a modern, light-soaked villa right on the lake they used to camp near when I was little. I bought it outright. I moved heaven and Home Depot to have it ready. New furniture, fresh paint, groceries in the fridge, a note tucked by the coffee maker. To the people who gave me everything. Here's something back. Love, Marcus. They cried. Dad hugged me for too long. Mom said it smelled like freedom. I didn't expect a parade. But I did expect to be remembered. Fast forward to last weekend. I was in the area for a client thing and thought I'd swing by. I didn't call first. I just wanted to see them in it. Living. Resting. Happy. But when the door opened, my mother looked at me like I was canvassing for window treatments. "Can I help you?" she said. I blinked. "It's me. Marcus." Her face didn't change. Then Tyler appeared behind her, barefoot, holding a mug. "Mom," he said. "That's the neighbor guy I told you about. The one who parks weird." Neighbor guy. I stepped back, heart thudding. My voice cracked like bad radio. "Mom. Seriously. What's going on?" She stared at me. Then gave me a tight smile. "I think you should go," she said. And shut the door. I stood there on the porch I bought, outside the house I gifted, and realized something terrible. They had rewritten the story without me in it. I didn't drive away right away. I stood there on the porch like an idiot, blinking at the door like it might reopen and she'd say, "Oh honey, I was joking." But it didn't. Nothing moved except a wind chime shaped like ducks that clinked mockingly over my head. I knocked again. Harder this time. No answer. I stepped back, pulled out my phone, and texted my dad. "Hey, I'm outside. Everything okay?" No response. I waited. 2 minutes. 5. Then I saw the curtains twitch. They were in there. I walked around the side path to the backyard, heart pounding in that low, humiliating thud you get when something personal goes very public. The backyard still looked like the photo from the real estate listing. Adirondack chairs I paid extra to get shipped fast, a fire pit with untouched logs, the view of the lake still maddeningly perfect. That's when I saw them. Through the sliding doors. My mom, my dad, Tyler, and his girlfriend Mallory. They were eating brunch. Mallory wore one of the robes I'd had monogrammed. She laughed at something, leaned over to refill my father's coffee, and kissed the top of his head. He smiled. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was watching a play someone else got cast in. One where I was written out of the script and replaced by a stand-in with a history of figuring things out. I knocked again. The glass this time. My dad looked up. His face went completely blank. Then he stood slowly and slid the door open about 6 inches. "Marcus," he said like it was a surprise. "We weren't expecting you. I didn't know I needed an appointment." He rubbed the back of his neck. "It's just not a good time." "Not a good time?" I laughed, but it sounded like a cough. "I bought this house for you. I don't need to be penciled in." Dad looked uncomfortable, like I'd broken some unspoken rule of polite betrayal. Behind him, Tyler raised a glass of orange juice and mock cheers. Mallory waved with all the energy of a girl who thinks she's winning. That's when I saw it, the plaque. Mounted by the fireplace. Langston Lake House, established by Tyler and Mallory, 2025. I stared. You renamed the house? I said. You rebranded the gift? Dad stepped out, gently closed the glass behind him like he was sealing me off from something delicate. It just made more sense. He said softly. You're busy. You have your own life. Tyler's been here, helping us settle in. Helping, I repeated. Right. Did he also help you forget who paid for the villa? A flicker of guilt passed over Dad's face, but he didn't deny it. He says you wanted to remain anonymous. My mouth actually fell open. Anonymous? Are you serious? You think I dropped almost $1 million and vanished into the background like some real estate fairy? He sighed. Don't make this dramatic. No. Too late. We passed dramatic 5 miles ago. I felt it then. The kind of pain that doesn't come with shouting. The kind that makes your hands shake and your stomach turn and your childhood unravel in real time. I gave you a home, I said. You gave me a door in my face. Dad looked down at his feet. You always wanted us to be happy. I wanted you to be safe. Comfortable. Seen. I didn't know I had to give up being your son to do it. That's when Mallory opened the door again. Everything okay, Har? She said, using the nickname only my mother ever used. Until now. He turned back. Nodded. She looked at me, all fake sugar. It's family day, Marcus. Maybe come back another time? My jaw clenched so hard I thought I might crack a molar. But I didn't say a word. I walked back to my car. And on the hood, under the windshield wiper, was a parking warning. From Tyler. Handwritten. It said guest spots only. I didn't go home. I drove straight to my lawyer's office. Now before you roll your eyes and assume I'm the guy who calls legal backup over brunch politics, let me clarify. I wasn't angry. I was clear. You know that razor-edge clarity that comes not when someone yells at you, but when they look you dead in the eye and pretend they've never seen you before? That's what this was. Kendra, my lawyer, has known me since my startup days when I was 25 and thought NDAs were just aggressive hugs. She took one look at my face and said, Who died? My access to reality, I replied. She didn't blink. Talk fast. I've got court at 3. I laid it out. The gift. The house. The renaming. The door in the face. The brunch. The plaque. The note under my windshield. Kendra leaned back in her chair. You put the house in their names? I shook my head. Technically, it's held in a trust. I'm the grantor. They're the beneficiaries. Full lifetime use rights. But I still hold legal power to manage it, maintain it, or, evict freeloading guest stars. Good, she said. Because this isn't a gift anymore. It's a hostage situation with landscaping. I signed 2 forms. One formally notifying my parents that the trust was being reviewed for misuse. The second? A notice to terminate access privileges for non-beneficiaries. Translation. Tyler and Mallory were about to have a very unpleasant afternoon. Kendra looked at me, eyebrow raised. You sure? No, I said. But I'm done being their silent investor. I left her office, drove to a hardware store, and bought 4 things: a smart lock, a security camera, a laminated sign that said, Private Property, and a bottle of lemon-scented cleaner because I was furious and scrubbing calms me. I arrived at the lake house that evening just after sunset. The sky was bruised purple and orange, and the porch lights were already on. I rang the bell again. This time, my mother answered. No hesitation. No fake confusion. Marcus, she said, voice tight. What now? No, I said, holding up the folder and the box of tools. We have a real conversation. Or you can keep pretending I'm a stranger and I'll treat this house like one. Behind her, I saw Tyler stand up from the couch, beer in hand. Oh, come on. This again? Not again, I said, stepping inside. This is the part where the actual owner of this property reintroduces himself. Mallory groaned dramatically. This is harassment. I pulled out my phone, opened the trust document, and turned it toward her like a priest with a Bible. This is legality. You're a squatter with brunch preferences. Tyler rolled his eyes. You always have to flex, huh? Can't stand not being the center. No, I said. I just got tired of buying the spotlight, and then being asked to leave the theater. I turned to my parents. I gave you this house because I love you. Because I thought you deserved peace after a life of noise. I didn't expect a parade. I didn't expect gratitude every 5 minutes. But I didn't expect to be erased either. Mom looked away. Dad looked at his hands. I softened. You don't have to like that I'm taking control. But you don't get to pretend I'm not your son just because someone else is better at pouring coffee. Tyler scoffed. Oh please. You know what, Ty? I said. Let's play your version. You're the hero. You moved in. You help. You brunch. Great. But here's the part you skipped, this isn't your house. It's not your name on the deed. It's not your money that wired the walls and paid the property taxes 5 years out. You're not helping. You're squatting on a gift you didn't give. He opened his mouth to argue. I held up a finger. Tonight you pack. Tomorrow you leave. If you're still here by noon, security arrives. Not a metaphor. Mallory stood up. You can't be serious. Oh. I smiled. I've never been more serious in my life. My dad finally spoke. Marcus, maybe we could all just talk. Dad, I said gently. I've been trying to talk for 10 years. Now I'm done. I'm setting the boundary you never would. I walked to the front door, replaced the lock while Tyler muttered profanities in the background, and set the security system from my phone. I left the laminated sign on the porch. When I turned back to my mother, she was crying. But it wasn't the kind that asked for pity. It was the kind that knew the show was over. I spent that night in a motel 10 minutes from the lake house. Not because I couldn't afford better, because I didn't want better. I wanted time. Time to cool off, to figure out if I had just nuked the last bridge I had with the people who raised me. I didn't sleep much. I watched late-night reruns, ate vending machine almonds, and stared at the ceiling while my stomach did somersaults. At 6:48 a.m., I got a text. From Mom, he's packing. Please don't make this worse than it already is. I stared at it for a long time before I replied. Me, I'm not making it worse. I'm making it real. No response. I went back to the house around 10 a.m. It was quiet. Peaceful, even. Like nothing had ever happened except for the fact that Tyler's car was gone, and the living room looked like a tornado had packed emotionally and left a dent in the throw pillows. I walked in through the back, using the new code on the keypad. My dad was sitting on the couch, holding one of those ridiculous handmade mugs you get at roadside markets. The kind that says "Number 1 Grandpa" even if you've never babysat a day in your life. Morning, he said without looking up. Morning. We sat in silence for a minute. I could feel the shape of his guilt hanging in the room like smoke. I didn't know how far it had gone, he said finally. I nodded. That's the problem, Dad. You stopped noticing when things went too far. He sighed. He said you wanted to keep it quiet? That it embarrassed you to have people know how much you'd spent. I nearly laughed. He used your humility to steal your house. Dad rubbed his jaw. He said a lot of things. I walked over to the cabinet where I'd stored the trust documents. Pulled them out. Laid them on the table like evidence in a trial that had already been decided. This isn't about Tyler anymore. It's about what you do with the facts. Dad stared down at the papers like they were in another language. I wanted to believe he was helping. He said. He was helping himself. I said, keeping my voice level. And you let him. He flinched. You're not wrong. It was quiet again. Just the sound of the clock ticking and a gull shrieking in the distance like even nature had an opinion on the mess we were in. Then he looked up at me. Thank you for coming back. That caught me off guard. You called me neighbor guy. I panicked. Your mother, she was scared. Scared of me? No, he said quickly. Scared of choosing. She thought if we acted confused, we could delay the fallout. But that door you knocked on? That wasn't about you. That was about the story Tyler sold us. And how easy it was to let someone else make decisions when we didn't want to feel old. There it was. The truth. Not a flashy betrayal. Just an ordinary surrender. She didn't forget you, Marcus. She just didn't want to explain why she hadn't stopped him sooner. I sat down beside him. The couch creaked like it had a story too. I never needed to be the favorite, I said. But I needed to not be disposable. He nodded, slow and heavy. You're not. And I'm sorry we made you feel that way. In the kitchen, I heard the kettle click on. A minute later, my mom came in, red-eyed, holding 2 mugs. She handed one to me. It was the one I'd custom ordered. The one that said Lake Life, established by Marcus Langston. I found this in the back of the cabinet, she said softly. I took it. She sat down across from us, hands wrapped around her own mug like a prayer. I didn't pretend not to know you because I wanted to, she said. I did it because I thought if I said your name, it would break everything. I looked at her. It broke anyway. She nodded. And maybe it needed to. No one cried. No one made grand speeches. We just sat there, sipping lemon tea, and feeling the cost of all the pretending settle in our bones. Then she said something I'll never forget. You didn't ruin this family, Marcus. You revealed what we let it become. And suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. I was just exhausted. But finally seen. I stayed for the rest of the day. Not out of obligation, but because something had shifted. For the first time in a long time, my presence wasn't about walking on eggshells or proving I still belong. It was about being home. Really home. Even if only the walls remembered. We ate lunch on the deck, leftover pasta salad and toast because no one had the energy to cook. Dad pointed out sailboats like he always used to. Mom insisted on wiping down the table 3 times. Old habits. It felt halfway normal. Until I went to the guest room to grab a charger and found a receipt tucked under the bed. It was for a sofa. A $4,000 designer sofa. Purchased on my mother's credit card. Addressed to Mallory. I took it to the kitchen and set it down without saying a word. Mom blinked. That's not mine. Dad leaned over. That's our card. But I never. I flipped the paper over. On the back was a quick scribble in Tyler's handwriting. Just for now. We'll transfer soon. Promise. T. I looked at them. How long? Mom hesitated. A few weeks. More than that, I said. There's no just for now when the man's ordering restoration hardware like he's a Rockefeller. Dad sighed and stood up. I'm going to the garage. And he did. Like a man escaping his own guilt. Mom tried to reach for the receipt. I stopped her. Mom, you need to understand something. This isn't just about money. She looked down. It's about your silence being used like a signature. That landed. Her lip trembled, but she didn't cry. Instead, she whispered, I thought if we let him have some space, some comfort, he'd settle. He didn't settle, I said. He squatted. He rebranded. And you let him convince you that I was the outsider. She looked at me like she was finally seeing the full picture, and hating it. I let you think I didn't know you, she said. My own son. I swallowed the burn in my throat. Yeah. I don't know how to fix that. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You don't. You just stop pretending it didn't happen. She nodded slowly. That night I cooked dinner. I hadn't done that in years. Chicken with lemon and thyme, roasted vegetables, garlic bread the way Mom likes, burnt edges, lots of butter. I even set the table. Like we used to on Sundays before Tyler started treating every gathering like a therapy session he didn't pay for. We didn't say much during the meal. But the silence was finally clean. No tension. No waiting for the next manipulation to slither out from under someone's compliment. Afterward, I handed Dad a folder. Inside was a complete outline of the trust, the updated legal protection plan, the HOA guidelines, and a new maintenance schedule with the local contractor's info. I'd color-coded it, laminated the pages, and put sticky tabs in every section like I was prepping for a meeting with God. He flipped through it slowly, eyes growing wide. You built us a fortress, he said. I built you a boundary, I corrected. Now you just have to stop unlocking it for people who knock with a smile. He laughed. A real one this time. Does it have a folder label? He asked. Yup. Top drawer in the cabinet. Labeled in case of Tyler. He barked out a laugh so loud Mom jumped. That night, we played cards. Gin rummy. My mom cheated like she always does. Dad pretended not to notice, like he always did. And me? I let them. Because for once, it was harmless. After they went to bed, I sat on the porch by myself. Lake like glass. Air like forgiveness. And for the first time since that door shut in my face, I didn't feel like a son who gave too much. I felt like one who finally gave the right thing. Not a gift. A limit. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon and the sound of my father humming. Which would have been great, except I hadn't slept. Not really. I'd laid in the guest room, staring at the ceiling fan, knowing what I had to do next. The part I'd been avoiding. Tyler. I'd done the paperwork. Changed the locks. Kicked him out with all the subtlety of a court summons. But I hadn't said the thing. The sentence I'd been carrying around like a lit match in my chest for years. So I called him. He picked up on the third ring, voice groggy and already annoyed. What? I need to talk to you, I said. Oh, now you want to talk? He scoffed. You know, you didn't have to humiliate me in front of Mallory. You humiliated yourself, I said calmly. I just brought the paperwork. Long silence. Look, he muttered. I get it. You're mad. But I thought you'd understand. I was trying to give them a better life. We were doing things for them. Mallory even booked a sunset cruise. A sunset cruise? For their anniversary. Tyler, I bought them a house. And then disappeared. I gave them space. You gave them an invoice wrapped in granite countertops. That's when I snapped. Not yelling. Worse. Honest. You didn't give them anything. I said. You moved in. You erased my name. You fed them a version of the truth so flattering it tasted like dessert. And they swallowed it because it came with brunch and babying. I didn't erase you. You had a plaque made. He went quiet. I exhaled. You've been playing broke martyr for a decade, Ty. But the truth is, you don't want to stand on your own. You want to live in someone else's generosity and call it a family tradition. That's not fair. He said softer now. Maybe not. But it's true. Another silence. Then, they needed me. He said. You're never around. You show up twice a year and drop money like that's enough. I paused. That one stung, because there was some truth in it. I tried to give them peace. I said. You gave them dependence. So what? He asked. You want me to just vanish? Pretend like I don't exist? No, I said. I want you to stop acting like proximity is love and entitlement is effort. He sighed. You've always had the power, Marcus. The money. The voice. You don't know what it's like to be the one they pity. And you don't know what it's like to be the one they use. That landed hard. I could hear him breathing on the other end, like he'd run out of arguments but didn't want to hang up. I'll give you a week, I said. To come pick up anything you left behind. After that, it goes in the donation bin. Wow. No more squatting. No more guilt campaigns. And if you try to list the house on Airbnb again, I will bury you in so much legal jargon you'll need a translator and a Xanax. He chuckled bitterly. You really think you're the good guy here? I don't, I said. I think I'm the guy finally willing to stop pretending. Click. I stared at the phone like it might apologize. It didn't. Back in the kitchen, Mom had plated breakfast. Real plates. No plastic. Dad was reading the paper like it was still 2002. And for once, nobody asked what my brother had said. Because they already knew. We ate together. Then I went to the storage closet and pulled out a new sign I'd ordered weeks ago. Just hadn't put it up yet. It read, Langston Lake House, gifted in love, guarded with purpose. Underneath, in small print. By Marcus' son. Still here. I mounted it by the front door, just above the porch light. It clicked into place like truth finally claiming its corner. Later that week, I got a message from Mallory. Well, technically a series of DMs on Instagram, because apparently even breakups and evictions are aesthetic opportunities now. The first said, Hey. Just wanted to clear the air. No hard feelings. The second came an hour later, after I didn't reply. It was actually my idea to call it the Langston Lake House. You should be flattered. Legacy and all. The third? You know, you're not the only one who cares about your parents. Tyler was just trying to help. I stared at my phone and thought, help doesn't come with a brand strategy and a suitcase full of excuses. It comes quietly. Consistently. Without a logo. I blocked her. But the message, the real message, came later that night. A knock at my condo door. Tyler. Hair messy, wearing the same hoodie he's worn since college, holding a duffel bag that looked more apology than luggage. I'm not staying, he said quickly. I just need 10 minutes. I stepped aside. He walked in, looked around like he hadn't seen this place in years. He hadn't. He always said my apartment was too cold, which was code for too clean, and not mine. He stood in the middle of my kitchen, hands stuffed in his pockets. I'm sorry, he said. Just like that. No stalling. No lead-in. No fishing for a counter-apology. I raised an eyebrow. For what? For the sign. For the lies. For pretending the lake house was ours. For the way I twisted things. For turning Mom against you even for a second. And for making you the villain in a story where you were the only one who ever showed up. I didn't speak. He kept going. You were right. I didn't want to stand on my own. It was easier to make you the bad guy. If you were cold, then I was warm. If you were successful, then I was at least the one who cared. It was lazy. And cruel. And I'm sorry. Still, I didn't speak. Not because I wasn't moved, but because I wasn't sure yet if it was real or just rehearsal for the next scene. He walked over to the table and gently set down an envelope. 5,000, he said. I know it's not much. But it's the couch money. Mallory's gone. So is her subscription box empire, and her bad taste in floor lamps. I looked at the envelope, then back at him. And what do you want in return? I asked. Nothing. He met my eyes. I'm not asking for a key. Or a second chance. Or a Sunday dinner invite. I just want you to know I'm trying. For real. Without the act. I let that sit. It was the first time he'd walked into a room with nothing to sell. So I nodded. Just once. That's a start, I said. He smiled a little, relieved. We stood there in silence for a moment that somehow carried 30 years of everything we never said. And then, like always, he tried to lighten the air. Mom says you still label your leftovers like a serial killer. I smirked. Yeah? She still alphabetizes her spices like it's a hostage situation? She does. And she still thinks cumin is a little too aggressive. We both laughed. For real this time. Not the polite kind you do for family peace. He turned to leave. Marcus? Yeah? I'm not proud of who I've been. But I'd like to be proud of who I become next. I looked at him. Then become. Don't announce it. Just do the work. He nodded. And for once, he didn't try to hug me. He didn't try to spin the ending. He just left. And it felt like the first honest thing between us in years. 3 weeks later, I drove to the lake house again. No reason. No text ahead of time. Just a quiet Saturday and a thermos of black coffee and this new, unexpected desire to see my parents existing, not performing, not pleasing, just living. When I pulled into the driveway, the first thing I noticed was the porch swing. Someone had finally hung it. The second thing I noticed? The sound. Laughter. The kind that didn't apologize. The kind that didn't end in someone clearing their throat. It was my dad. Big and warm, a belly laugh I hadn't heard since before the economy tanked in 2008, and he started treating joy like a liability. I stepped up to the porch. The new sign I'd mounted was still there. Langston Lake House, gifted in love, guarded with purpose. Untouched, unvandalized. I smiled. Inside, Mom was dancing barefoot in the kitchen, singing along to some Motown song like it was 1976, and her knees still worked like a gymnast. Dad stood by the stove, flipping pancakes with the confidence of a man who'd finally decided breakfast was worth the effort. They saw me and lit up like kids. Marcus! Mom said, wiping her hands on a towel that had I'm retired do-it-yourself embroidered on it. You didn't say you were coming. Didn't want to risk the do not disturb sign again. I said, grinning. Dad chuckled. Fair. I joined them. We ate pancakes on the deck. They told me about the neighbors, Jan from next door who brought over a pie so terrible it became a running joke, Roy, the retired Navy guy who swears a pelican stole his Crocs, a couple from New York who'd invited them to a trivia night and got stunned when Mom swept the whole 80s movie category. They think I'm bluffing when I say I met Chevy Chase in an elevator, she said, sipping coffee. I didn't. He stepped on my foot. Not surprised, I muttered. We laughed. We just laughed. Not cautiously. Not with that familiar post-trauma scanning of each other's faces. At one point, Dad leaned back, sighed like his whole ribcage was finally allowed to expand. It's peaceful here, he said. I looked at him. It's safe here. He nodded. That too. Then he surprised me. He stood up, went inside, came back with a small cardboard box. I kept it, he said. Everything from that day. The legal docs. Your welcome note. Even the old key. I didn't want to throw it out. Felt like proof of something. Like evidence that someone chose us on purpose. I swallowed hard. Thank you, he added. For choosing us. And for protecting us when we forgot how. That one hit deep. I blinked fast. Then Mom reached over and touched my hand. I talked to Tyler, she said softly. He's working now. Temp gig, but he says he's trying. I believe him. I nodded. I believe him too. But the house stays locked. She smiled. Good. It should. We sat in the silence for a while, watching the lake catch gold from the morning light. The birds were loud. The air smelled like rosemary and lemon and not a trace of someone else's guilt. I thought about that first moment, the door shutting in my face. The cold shock of being forgotten on the steps of something I gave away in love. And now? The door was open. No plaques with the wrong names. No brunch with someone else playing my part. No gaslighting disguised as family bonding. Just two parents who finally understood the difference between being taken care of and being taken for granted. Just me. Their son. Still here. Not because they demanded it. Not because I felt obligated. Because I wanted to be. Because the house wasn't the prize. The peace was. And peace, I've learned, isn't something you buy with love. It's something you defend with it. That's the real story. And this time, nobody rewrites it.